Hey, so something happened today that I kind of just wanted to share with you guys. Anybody new joining us? I'm Hams. This is Hams Radio. So I wanted to share this experience that happened today. I was smoking, and after this happened, I kind of sat down and started writing. Just kind of wanted to see how this affected my thoughts. Is that something I feel more comfortable doing? Not more comfortable, but does it serve the purpose that I'm looking for a little bit better than just coming here and just talking about whatever comes into my head? So we're gonna see how this kind of does. So, but this is me kind of just going off on kind of like a thought tangent, and then actually writing it down. I know if I'm talking about a certain subject, I can get super distracted and I lose my train of thought, all of that, yada yada. So all I'm gonna do today is read that thought. I kind of went on. So here we go. Okay. Today is a date. The 13th. Yeah, okay. So 13th. Okay. Practicing the L to R mode transition while in garage smoking. I don't know what happened. I think I started out doing bullet points and then I decided not to. Forcing my brain to slow down and follow an outline of a tree in the distance. So I just was messing around. Forcing my brain to slow down and follow an outline of a tree in the distance, only moving where the line took me, but make sure every detail is carefully looked at. The resistance my left side showed was very strange. It's what I would describe as an intense state of confusion. Just remembering doing the exercise is creating less intense but same resistance from the left side. I thought this was super interesting. Even now as I'm sitting here, I do feel even less intense than when I was writing this. Just kind of spitballing. Maybe it's the fact that my left side is currently doing two things that makes it dominant. I'm reading and I am talking. So maybe as I'm reading and talking, the left side is busy enough, I guess, doing these tasks and doesn't have space to feel as uncomfortable, or it's not as vulnerable to the conflict that this exercise produces. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting because I remember the intensity when I was doing it. I remember the intensity when I was writing this. And now I'm comparing the intensity of that same feeling. All three same feelings, less intense. Because it's barely there right now, but I can still feel it. Let's see. But the same, so just remembering doing the exercise is creating less intense, but same resistance from the left side. Which, as I'm writing, I'm finding myself having trouble getting these words on the page. I can only assume that the left hemisphere is pretty much dropping out, just thinking about the exercise. And I felt that similar, again, less intense, but it was still the same feeling. And it was still pretty strong. It's still pretty high from smoking. I had just come from doing this exercise. So I don't know. Again, all of this is conjecture. I have no idea. I keep looking at the wrong side of the phone. Hello. Okay. See, that's why I write shit down. I have no idea what I was talking about. Let's see, as I'm finding this. So as I'm writing this, even though I felt all these emotions come out or whatever, like it was very hard for me to find my verbal ability. It was, and I kept having to just, and it was as if there was kind of like a mild struggle between left and right. And sometimes left had a hard time coming back. And the book talks about this, by the way. Oh, and I also wanted to mention the activity. I have not done this activity yet, but the activity that uses kind of the same-ish principles. Basically what it is, it has you look at your palm, right? Or I'd have my hand right here, you know, a paper, whatever I'm drawing. Take my hand back here, and I am to look at my palm, squish it, and only draw what I see. So without looking at the paper, I am to look, visibly see all of that, and millimeter by millimeter, come across and try to draw. So as you're looking back here, you are drawing this right here. The brain doesn't like that. The left side doesn't really like that. So with that being said, instead of doing it physically, I was just doing it with my mind. Well, not my mind, but my eyeballs, not allowing my brain to move until I have every detail of that millimeter I'm looking at. That's kind of what I was doing. The book mentions doing that exercise, the palm hand one. And they experimented with this, that not doing this one exercise in like the 5-day whatever class, she gave the class, the 5-day classes, people's ability to perceive more accurately wasn't as strong if they did not complete this exercise. And I had tried it the other day and I failed miserably. After about 3 lines, part of me feels like I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted my lines and the lines on the paper to match up. I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted it to be accurate. But I had to, and I couldn't let that go. So I think that's why I couldn't do it. But I will be trying that after I'm done with my current drawing, which coming along. So let's see. So I wanted to do a quick version of that in my head, and fuck did it work. I felt the confusion, and as I kept very slowly tracing leaves with my eyes. So as I kept very slowly tracing leaves with my eyes, the confusion dissipated. And it's a completely different experience. Oh, excuse me. I really do like it. But, because there's always a but. You're over there. But I do have an very overwhelming sense of relief when it's done. One theory, or at least like a contributing factor, is that being in L mode makes sense to me. It is very familiar. It's just, which is tough, because even though I enjoy the right side, even though I enjoy, like even the couple times that I can say that I remember being in it, as wonderful as I say I enjoy it, being in the left zone is familiar. So L mode makes sense to me and is familiar. As great of a feeling as being in R mode is, because L mode is familiar. People tend to gravitate, at least I know I do. I'll keep it on a sense of talking about me. I tend to gravitate towards things that I am familiar with. It could be a girl or a boy or somebody that you hate, that you grew up with, right? But can you envision even it could be very, very slight. It could be your high school rival, I don't know. And you end up seeing them in a space where you are very, very uncomfortable. Let's say you are not comfortable in the museum setting. If you go to a museum and you see a familiar face, there's a kind of like, oh shit, cool, I know them. It's a sense of comfortability, I think. I feel like it feels to me like, oh, like cool. I don't even know how to explain that. But yes. I am more comfortable in it, and this is huge, I think, for me personally, because I know what to expect. I know what to expect. I know people say people have a fear of the unknown, and I think I have to agree with that, even in myself. I know what to expect in the L mode, because I don't know because the right mode, I don't know, it just feels so powerful. And maybe I'm scared of that. Maybe I'm scared of just not knowing. I don't know. I have a sense of, right? I like the sense of knowing, a peace of mind. As somebody's recently pointed out to me, I like a peace of mind. I like knowing. I always have this worst case scenario in my head for a lot of things that just drives my anxiety up. So it's always cool. Okay. So I am more comfortable in it because I know what to expect. As well, and I can say I see this pattern in my everyday choices. I do. I've always been in abusive relationships, other than my first official boyfriend. He was a doll. So even if I were to get into a healthy relationship, I don't think I would have stayed, because it's not what I'm familiar with. It's not. What people assume that once somebody who's grown up in trauma gets into a healthy relationship, people are so confused, and why people go back, myself included. I don't get it. And it's ironic because when I was in my abusive relationship, like, I didn't know, it didn't make sense to me that it was an abusive relationship. It didn't click for me. I don't think it's fully clicked until more recently. And we've been broken up, it was like November 16. Oh. What? November 16. Holy shit. Anyways. So it just, the time frame, I don't know why that seems so off. There's a sense of like relief that it's been so long. I think that's what it was. Or I don't know. I don't know what that was. But I think that, oh fuck. See, it's such. So it's moments like these, it's things like this that I'm constantly checking myself. When I brought up, it's 2016, right? Yeah, November 2016. So it's been, 6 years? And when I realized that, the feeling that I immediately felt is what I'm constantly checking myself on. So as I'm going through doing things like this one was caught on camera. when I learn things or discover things, or I'm thinking about things and see something in a new light, what I'm doing is seeing how I'm emotionally, mentally, physically reacting to it. And I'm coming to find there's just so many possibilities for so many different things that it's easy to just start thinking about possibilities when it comes to just everything. So it's easy to understand when people say, I don't know how I feel about a certain subject. And it's going to be difficult for other people to understand because they're not coming into the situation with the same lenses and views that you have. So you're automatically not going to be totally aligning on all the planes of everything anybody thinks about going through a day that they take into consideration when they're making any type of decision. And that may seem like a crazy big statement, but it's not. This is why I don't believe it is. Because even the simplest decisions can be seen as, this is a fucking example. Today, I was cleaning up the kitchen and emptied the entire dishwasher. The only things that needed to be washed were like 18 spoons. Not really. There were like 6 or 7 spoons and like a big pan. All washable things other than the 6 spoons. So the choice I was presented with, this is just the 2 choices that just kind of came to the top. So it's not like I sat there and be like, these are my 2 choices. It's just kind of like, okay, these are my 2 choices. It's just what my brain naturally divided it into. It's just the 2 choices my brain fucking went with. So it was either stick all the spoons in, they're dirty dishes. It's a empty dishwasher. Stick all 6, 7 spoons, whatever, in there. And then whoever moving forward wants to use the spoons, because I knew it probably would take some time to fill up the dishwasher again. But I knew spoons were gonna be needed at some point, probably myself, a little ice cream at night. But, so I knew people are gonna need them. So why not just wash them? And here was kind of some things that went through my head. Well, yeah, and I think this closer reflects to my growing up mentality. I think so. Again, anything I say in here is just pure speculation on my part. And this is going on in my body. So this is just stuff that I'm speculating to kind of show you where, when I'm going through these processes of figuring out what the fuck is going on, whether it's my emotional state, whether it's my reaction to a possible trigger. I don't know. But this is kind of like thought diarrhea. So you see, like, this is messy. My head is messy. In order for me to develop these changes that I want, I go through so many thoughts. Some make sense, some don't, some I don't know. Some I can apply, some that I'm like, all right, I think I was just paranoid because from the weed. So there's a lot of sorting going on. But this is just boom, 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 just kind of like a trail of thought that happened in my brain in one moment. As you can see, even me trying to fucking read through something my own brain fucking put out, I can't seem to stay on target. So, whatever. One other thing is, nope, lost it. All right, cool. back to the shit. Okay, so I've always been in abusive relationships. Other than my first boyfriend, he was a doll. So I'm talking about familiarity when it comes to what people are drawn to. Comfortability that comes with familiarity that causes people to still gravitate towards situations they have been in most of their life, regardless of the health meter. Super abusive, super nice. Doesn't matter. So I have always been in abusive relationships, other than my first boyfriend. So even if I were to get into a healthy relationship, I think this is huge because I feel like for me, I don't think, and this was even my thought when people are talking about abused females in relationships. Fucking A. Okay. Oh, because just because you're in a healthy relationship doesn't mean your brain recognizes it as something that is good for you. I mean, you may logically be like, yeah, like, I know, but still something about you makes you uncomfortable. It's not because you're in a bad relationship. It's just because mentally and emotionally, you've just never really been in this kind of state coming from a mental emotional health point. Why would you feel comfortable? Why would that feel safe to you? It's very hard because you're at so, and I don't think people allow that to be a consideration. So I think, and it's important to figure out where your trauma reactive behavior is. I don't even know if that's a word. That's just how my brain decided to come up with it. So trauma, the way you react to situations, if it's trauma caused, that's kind of what I want to change in myself. If my reactions are trauma based, I want to figure out what those are. I want to figure out how I'd like to respond to situations, and then figure out what can I do to practice that. I've done a variation of that over the last at least 6 years. So I have, so the way I'm going about this, I have some practicing. But it started small. It started just very small. If whatever I was doing was a counterattack to the trauma reactive behavior that I don't like, so let's see. Okay, so even if I were to get into a healthy relationship, I don't think I would have stayed because it's not what I'm familiar with. My first official boyfriend is a perfect example. I don't think I deserved such a good guy. I was undeserving. I remember thinking similar thoughts as those when I broke up with him. So I'm sorry. I'm not gonna say his name, but obviously, but I'm sorry for that. Like, I don't, like, obviously, well, you know what? That's the thing with being sorry about. Being sorry for your, I don't know, that's a whole thing for me. Because I don't want to apologize for my trauma-based reaction. And here's why. Well, I'm not going to say that. It's not, fuck. See, this is, I want to avoid anything that allows my brain to, even if it's so slightly, to make any type of stuff like that okay. Meaning, if I apologize for my trauma reactive behavior, out of that, I think part of me thinks if I apologize, it's somehow in giving my brain the okay that is less intolerable, so more tolerable now, if that makes sense. So it's not and that's what I'm saying about you can't base some shit straight off of someone's behavior sometimes. Sometimes it's more than whatever reaction you saw. It's not all about you. It's not a reaction to you. It's not, even though you may have done something to cause the behavior still not about you. If that makes sense, the behavior is about their trauma, not you. So this is one thing that I'm kind of noticing about myself right now. How am I reacting to other people's trauma reactions? How am I doing that? And so that's one thing that kind of like pops up in my head throughout the day. Trying to be understanding to somebody else's trauma and the reaction to certain situations that may have because of trauma. I'm just trying to be better. Doesn't mean I'm always able to do it, but that is one thing I have noticed. And again, it allows me to be more forgiving. It allows me to be way more empathetic, which I like. I do like that. And by not taking it personal like that, understanding that it's their trauma making them react like that or causing that reaction, not what I did is causing that reaction. It doesn't even feel like it's any trouble emotionally to have to receive that negative behavior reaction, if that makes sense. I don't take it personally, and I'm able to just kind of take it as it is, and kind of like, okay, that wasn't about me. It could be something I have no idea about. It could be them, I don't know, something happened to their friend or mom or friendly or friend or something. It could just be, who knows? So, but I know I have a bunch of trauma reaction behavior that I want to fix, and that's part of this whole thing. Anyways, okay, whew. Let's see. And from there, after my first official boyfriend, after I broke up with him for feeling deserving, and from there, my relationships fit from a category I thought I deserved. And I didn't think I deserved much. Looking back when I dated Michael, the abuse was a normal amount of abuse. So this is the boyfriend, the abusive relationship was with Michael. Okay. I dated Michael, the abuse was normal. This is not my first official boyfriend. I just wanted to clear that up. This is Michael. It was kind of like my last official boyfriend. That ended in 2017. 16. Broke up with him in November. He wouldn't leave my apartment until the lease was up in May 17. So we lived together until May 17. So relationship, and I didn't think I deserved much. Looking back when I dated Michael, the abuse was in my head, a normal amount of abuse. Just thinking about that or it's not that bad. But I remember a night, I wasn't 100% sure he wasn't going to kill me. And now I recall a comment my mom told me shortly after we broke up. She said that Michael was very mean to me. I still cannot see what she's referring to. Whatever he said to me, it didn't even register as something to remember. But to my mom, it was extremely mean. That is how much I had been desensitized to his meanness, his abusiveness. My scale abusive is up here, right? This is what I think abuse is. And he, does it kind of in this realm, I'm assuming. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out. My brain has a tolerance for fucking abusiveness, right? And I'm assuming he kind of operated right below it. So it never registered as abuse. So he operated here. My mom's, so this is where Michael's operating. My mom's tolerance or level for abuse, or says this is abuse, is down here. So of course she's going to be able to see some of the abusiveness. What slips out in public, or whatever. I am unable to see it because it hasn't escalated to a point where I'm like, shit, okay. Looking back now, I have a different view. In the moment, that's where it was. So I realized, even though he was operating here, this is where my tolerance was. My tolerance, or what I view as abuse, has definitely started to come down. So the area he was operating in, it's slowly come and be like, oh shit, that was abusive. Because of the reality of abusiveness is becoming clearer to me, if that makes sense. Like you don't have to get shot just to be that's not abuse. That's not the only form of abusiveness. There's so many levels. And as long as you come along and do it slowly, it's like fucking boiling a lobster. Won't even fucking know until it's boiled. If you turn up the heat, as opposed to dropping it into the fucking boiling, scorching water. That's the difference. Oh, I still get fired up about it sometimes because it's So, that was, believe it or not, that was, I felt a huge, I guess, release. It was relief. I don't know, I guess thinking about being in that situation and realizing I'm not in it anymore. It's interesting. It's interesting to talk about it, Fuck. Okay. I'm gonna keep reading. Okay. Okay, so I couldn't see that he was being abusive. It wasn't even anything to stick out to me. I know I look back and say it could have been much worse than him calling the cops on me. Oh, okay. That's how much I had been desensitized to his abusiveness. I look back and say it could have been much worse than him calling the cops on me and getting him arrested for domestic violence. I am able to more clearly see the actual reality of my situation, although I'm extremely happy at this point that my body and mind reacted that way by desensitizing me, because going through things like that otherwise would be unsurvivable. But getting back to familiarity, I'm seeing where my familiar people, places, things, emotion, mental state. Okay. I'm seeing like who my familiar people are, my familiar places, my familiar things, my emotional state and familiar mental state. I feel for me, familiar emotional and familiar mental state, I feel for me, are a huge drive for some actions. I grew up very abused. So I naturally gravitated towards abusive people because they provide me with a familiar emotional and a familiar mental state. High anxiety. So what I'm doing now, in a nutshell, and I guess the best way to describe what I'm trying to do in my journey, I want to challenge my familiarities. I want to address trauma-related familiarity. What is driving these behaviors, and what I can do to heal and change to be closer to the person I want to see myself become. Yeah, so there's that. Thank you for joining. I know I talk about some emotional shit. I will make sure I say possible trigger warning in the thing. But if you some way or somehow on some level connected with anything in this video, I hope that you can take something away from this, even if it's, I don't know, in a way that I could have never even imagined. Again, I'm doing this so maybe other people can feel like they're not the only person experiencing it, or can maybe, I don't know, shine a new view on a situation that you needed. I don't know. But if you did, like, share, subscribe, please. And maybe you can be the reason somebody gets help today. Thank you.